took the unprecedented step of admitting to the public that they will not be able to meet the deadlines that were mandated by the consent order. I strongly believed that it was vital for DOE to transport the public, or to be transparent actually with the public about that information and the lab's inability to meet the deadlines in that consent order. After the DOE made this admission, which I greatly appreciate, I tasked the New Mexico Environment Department to begin working with DOE to revise the cleanup schedule that would allow the highest risk projects to be completed first. We identified two key areas of immediate cleanup needs. First, a need to accelerate shipments of above-ground transuranic waste off of Area G of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. This was something I was personally very involved with and personally very concerned about. After spending many days and weeks up here during the Los Conchas fire, I witnessed the concerns of the public over the above-ground waste. Much of this waste had been sitting here since the 2000 Cerro Grande fire, and little had been done. I simply decided that enough was enough. We had to do something about this waste that was above ground. So after identifying the immediate need, my administration negotiated a framework agreement with DOE to accelerate shipments of the above-ground TRU waste to WIP by June 30th of 2014. The Martinez administration made cleaning up the above-ground TRU waste a priority, especially after the threats that were presented during the Los Conchas fire of 2011. The framework agreement requires LANL to completely remove 3,706 cubic meters of above-ground transuranic waste from the lab site. The other immediate need we identified was ensuring that stormwater runoff from LANL and surrounding areas not affect local drinking water systems, including the Buckman Diversion Project in Santa Fe. The framework agreement also requires DOE to continue a robust groundwater monitoring and cleanup effort at the LANL lab site. For the past 2 years, the Environment Department and DOE have regularly communicated with federal and state lawmakers, tribal leaders, interested stakeholders, and the general public about these efforts. Part of that need to be transparent is why I am here today, to check on the progress of these priorities. LANL officials will get into the details of the progress in a few minutes. The second reason that I'm here today is to discuss some recent important developments on these cleanup efforts related to federal funding. Funding always remains a concern due to federal budget cuts. What happens in Washington directly affects the performance of these cleanup efforts right here at the lab. At the same time, regardless of these cuts, the federal government needs to recognize that the state of New Mexico has a framework agreement in place with the Department of Energy. So I have made it clear that LANL is expected to meet those cleanup deadlines set in that framework. If DOE and the federal government do not adequately fund this cleanup effort, the deadlines in the framework agreement will not be met. If it comes to missed cleanup deadlines, I can assure the DOE that the state will take a much harder approach to deadlines and the penalties that come with it if they have missed those deadlines, and we will impose those penalties to the federal government. With that in mind, I have personally gotten involved in the most recent fight to secure adequate funding for the 3706 TRU Waste Campaign. In the past few months, with the threat of sequestration and other potential cuts looming, I've personally spoken to DOE in Washington, D.C. and told them that we simply need the money that they promised that they would give us. As this is an issue that affects all of us here in New Mexico, I've made this a bipartisan effort to try to secure the adequate funds, especially when we heard that the cleanup effort here was facing budget cuts. Facing budget cuts is unacceptable. I want to acknowledge the efforts of the congressional delegation and the regional coalition of LANL communities, which includes the city of Santa Fe, Pueblo de San Ildefonso, Los Alamos County, the city of Española, Eddy County, Taos County, and the city of Carlsbad for assisting us in this effort. It truly is a team effort and a bipartisan effort. I am proud to sit here today to announce the first steps have been taken to get the federal money that we were promised to get this job done. On Friday, the Department of Energy announced to congressional appropriators a plan to realign an additional $40 million of its budget to this 3706 TRU Waste campaign here at LANL. If approved, this money would save the jobs of up to 120 workers here on site who are involved in this project. Some of those workers I've spoken to today, and they are grateful for our efforts to secure this money. However, it is not a done deal. Congressional appropriators now must move forward and have this approved by DOE. The request is to align funds for this project. For this reason, I am calling on members of the House and members of the Senate Appropriations Committee to approve this much-needed funding. We have sent this letter to those appropriators this morning, and we will continue to keep the pressure on so that cleanup milestones here at the lab are met. I thank our congressional leaders for this help in the effort as well. Now back to the business at hand. The cleanup here at the lab site and the 3706 TRU Waste Campaign progress reports. I met with lab leaders this morning and can report the following. As of April 28, 2013, 1,481.9 cubic meters of TRU waste has been processed. That's the equivalent of 7,000 drums of TRU waste. With the latest figures, 3706 TRU Waste Campaign is 39% complete. LANL has informed the state of New Mexico that they are slightly behind schedule with the campaign due to a necessary processing line shutdown to check on safety measures. Over and over throughout my tour today, safety is the #1 interest of everyone on site, is to make sure that their employees are safe while working here and when they return home. I will ask LANL leaders to address this specific issue in a few minutes as well. But I can also report so far no employees have been injured in the processing of the above-ground TRU waste from the LANL site. There have been 26 shipments for a cumulative total of 293 shipments to WIP since the beginning of this campaign. For the latest update of the progress of this campaign, I'd like to invite Jeff from Los Alamos Lab's Environmental Cleanup Division to further explain those numbers. Jeff, if you'll come up and give us some of that additional information.